My name is Megan Calloway, and the last thing I remember before everything went black was champagne dripping down my eyelashes and my sister's hand still clenched around the bottle. It was New Year's Eve. The countdown had just started. 10, 9, 8. Everyone in the living room was laughing. Glasses raised, gold confetti stuck to the carpet, the TV glowing with a giant digital clock about to flip into a new year. I never made it to one, because at 7 seconds to midnight, Claire smashed the bottle into my face. Not a slip, not a stumble, not a drunken accident. She swung it. I heard the sound first, a dull, cracking thud, before pain exploded behind my eyes. My head snapped sideways. I lost my footing, and the edge of the marble fireplace met my skull with enough force to steal my breath. Something warm flooded my hairline. Blood, mixed with champagne. Someone screamed. I didn't. I couldn't. As the room tilted and the voices blurred into static, I saw Claire standing over me. Fireworks, reflected in the window behind her, her mouth open in mock horror. But for one split second, before she rearranged her face into panic, she smiled. "Oh my God!" my mother shouted. "Megan, stop being so dramatic." That was the last thing I heard before the year changed without me. I woke up in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and stale coffee. My head felt like it had been split in two and glued back together wrong. Every pulse of my heart sent lightning through my skull. A nurse noticed my eyes open and pressed a button. "You're lucky," she said gently. "You came in just in time." I tried to speak, but my throat was raw. "What happened?" I whispered. She hesitated just long enough for dread to settle in my stomach. "You hit your head," she said. "Hard. Do you remember how?" A flash of champagne, the countdown, Claire's arm. Before I could answer, the curtain slid open. The doctor stepped in, and the look on his face told me this wasn't just about last night. I was 37 years old, a compliance manager for a national logistics company. The woman everyone described as solid, reliable, the one who always lands on her feet. I owned my condo in Denver outright. No cosigner, no family help. I built my life the way I'd learned to survive, growing up in my family, quietly, carefully, without needing anything, because needing things was dangerous. In my family, attention was currency, and my younger sister, Claire, had always been rich. Claire was 16 months younger, but she might as well have been born first. My mother used to say it openly. Claire just has presence. Presence was what excused everything. Her tantrums were passion. Her cruelty was honesty. Her mistakes were phases. Mine were flaws. If Claire cried, the house stopped. If I cried, I was told to toughen up. By 12, I learned that the safest version of myself was the smallest one. So I shrank. The doctor pulled up scans on the screen beside my bed. "You have a concussion," he said. "A significant one. There's also a hairline fracture at the base of your skull." My stomach flipped. "But that's not why I'm concerned," he continued, his tone careful now. He clicked to another image. "This fracture here on your rib is not recent." I frowned. "That must be wrong." He shook his head. "It's healed improperly. No medical treatment. Based on the calcification, I'd estimate it's about 4 years old. 4 years. The summer barbecue. The fall, near the pool. The weeks it hurt to breathe. Claire had insisted I didn't need a doctor. "You bruise easily," she'd said. "Don't make a big deal." I believed her. I always did. The doctor folded his hands. "Miss Calloway," he said gently, "I'm required to ask you something difficult. Have you experienced repeated injuries in your home environment?" I laughed once, short and hollow. "No," I said automatically. "My sister and I, we just joke around." He didn't laugh. "In situations like this," he continued, "we are mandated to involve authorities, not to accuse, but to protect. Protect." The word felt foreign. He stepped out to make the call, and for the first time in my life, someone else decided that my pain mattered. Detective Elena Brooks arrived an hour later, mid-40s, calm eyes, no rush. She didn't interrupt when I spoke. She didn't fill silences for me. She waited. "Who poured my drink? Who stood closest to me before I fell? Who discouraged me from seeing a doctor in the past?" Every answer pointed the same way. Claire. My family arrived before I finished answering. My mother first. my stepfather behind her. And then, Claire mascara streaked perfectly, tears ready, on command. "Oh my God, Meg," Claire sobbed, grabbing my hand. "I can't believe this happened. I was so scared." My mother turned to the detective. "This is ridiculous," she said sharply. "Megan has always been clumsy. She's exaggerating." The familiar script. I opened my mouth to object. Claire squeezed my fingers hard. "Don't," she whispered. "You're tired." Something inside me snapped quietly, but permanently. And then a voice from the corner spoke. "I've been waiting 30 years for this moment." Everyone turned. My Aunt Ruth stood up. The family ghost. The quiet one. The one who never stayed long. Her hands were shaking. "She's telling the truth," Ruth said. "And so am I. And there's proof." She looked straight at me. "Your grandmother left you something. And Claire knows it." Claire went pale. And suddenly, the room felt very small. "My name is Megan Calloway. And I didn't sleep that night, not because of the concussion, but because of what I saw in Claire's eyes when Aunt Ruth said, 'Proof.' Not fear. Not shock. Not even guilt. It was something colder, like a person realizing their timeline just changed. They hadn't expected a witness to stand up. They hadn't expected a doctor to call the police. And they definitely hadn't expected my quiet aunt, the family background noise, to finally speak like she'd been holding a match for decades. Detective Brooks asked my family to step into the hall. My mother argued, of course. Claire cried louder. My stepfather hovered behind them like a lamp that had been unplugged years ago. But in the end, they moved. And then it was just me, my headache, the humming hospital lights, and Aunt Ruth sitting beside my bed like she'd been there all along. She didn't touch me at first. She just stared at the blanket pulled up to my waist, her knuckles white around her purse strap. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Those 2 words hit me harder than the bottle. I swallowed. "Sorry for what?" Her lips trembled. "For watching it happen. For knowing pieces. For choosing silence." I tried to sit up, but pain burst behind my eyes. I winced and lay back. "Aunt Ruth," I said slowly, "what do you know?" She took a shaky breath. "Your grandma, Evelyn, she didn't trust anyone in this family. Not your mother. Not Claire. Not even me. She said we were all trained to protect the wrong people." I blinked through the throbbing in my skull. "Trained?" Ruth's eyes flicked to the door, like my mother might burst back in and punish her for speaking. "You don't know what your mum was like growing up," she said. "Not the version she performs now. The one who laughs loud and says, 'Family is everything.'" I let out a humorless breath. "She performs that version pretty convincingly." Ruth's mouth tightened. "Exactly." Then she leaned closer and lowered her voice. "Megan, last night wasn't a joke. Claire didn't lose control. She's been testing limits for years. And your mother has been covering for her since she could walk." My stomach turned. And not from the medication. I wanted to deny it. I wanted to cling to the comforting lie that my sister was just mean sometimes. That my mum was strict. That everything had a normal explanation if I tried hard enough. But the scan on that screen, my old rib fracture, had already destroyed my ability to pretend. "Why?" I whispered. "Why would she do that?" Ruth's eyes filled. "Because Claire thinks you're in her way. And because your mother decided a long time ago that Claire was the one worth saving." That sentence settled into my bones like ice. A nurse came in, checked my vitals, and left again. Ruth didn't break eye contact once. "Listen," she said. "I can't tell you everything here. Too many ears. Too many ways for them to twist it." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded key on a worn ribbon, golden metal. Old-fashioned. "My house," she whispered. "The little blue one in Lakewood. Your grandma gave me this key the week she died. She made me promise I'd hand it to you if anything like this ever happened." My throat tightened. She planned for this? Ruth nodded once, tears sliding down the lines of her face. She knew Claire wouldn't stop. She knew the family wouldn't protect you. So she built something else. A way out. I stared at the key, like it was a foreign object. "A way out," I repeated. "From my own family." Ruth's voice broke. "Yes." She pressed the key into my palm. "Go home," she said. "Open the box. And don't go alone." "The box," I whispered. And suddenly, I remembered sharp as a needle. Grandma Evelyn's cedar box. The one she gave me at her funeral reception 4 years ago. when everyone else was hugging and crying, and Claire was performing like an actress in the lead role. Grandma had taken my hands, squeezed them tight, and said quietly, "Only open it when you truly need to know who you are." I'd laughed awkwardly then. "Grandma, I'm fine," I'd told her. She'd looked past me, toward my mother and Claire, and her face had gone grave. "You will not always be fine," she'd said. "And that's okay. Just promise me you won't stay blind." I'd promised, and then I buried the box in my closet like I was burying the possibility that she might be right. Now my hands shook around the key. "When do I open it?" I asked. Ruth's eyes hardened with something I'd never seen in her before, anger. "Tonight," she said, "before they get to it." I stared at her. "They don't have my condo keys." Ruth gave me a look that said I was still thinking like a normal person. "Megan," she said, voice low, "people like your mother and Claire don't need keys. They need access. They need guilt. They need you to believe they can't cross certain lines." She swallowed, then added, "They crossed those lines decades ago." Detective Brooks returned and asked Ruth to step out so she could speak with me privately. Ruth squeezed my hand once before leaving. "Don't let them rush you," she whispered. "Don't let them isolate you." Then she was gone. Detective Brooks pulled her chair close. "I want to be clear," she said. "No one can force you to press charges, but based on the injuries and the pattern, we are opening an investigation regardless." My mouth went dry. "Pattern?" She nodded. "We also have the restaurant's security footage request in process, and we're interviewing witnesses." I laughed faintly. "My family will lie." Brooks didn't look surprised. "Victims often say that," she replied, "and they're often right. But evidence doesn't care about family loyalty." She paused. "Aunt Ruth said there's proof," she continued. "Do you know what she meant?" I swallowed. "I think my grandmother left something." Brooks nodded slowly. "If there are documents, keep them safe. If you need help retrieving them, we can arrange an escort." Escort. That word made my heart beat strangely, fear and relief at the same time, because it meant someone would finally stand between me and them. Brooks stood to leave, then hesitated. "One more thing," she said. "Your sister's behavior last night, the way you described her expression before. She acted concerned." I tensed. Brooks's voice stayed calm. "That's not sibling roughhousing. That's not a harmless prank. That sounds like someone who expected a specific outcome." A specific outcome. My stomach rolled. When she left, I lay back and stared at the ceiling, trying to breathe through the pain and the new horror crawling through my thoughts. Claire didn't just want to embarrass me. She wanted me hurt. Maybe worse. And if last night was planned, how many other things had been planned too? I was discharged that afternoon, with strict concussion instructions and a stack of paperwork thick enough to choke a printer. Ruth insisted on driving me home. My mother tried to argue that I should come to her house so she could take care of me, but Detective Brooks shut that down with one clean sentence. "Given the allegations, that is not advisable." My mother's face tightened like she'd swallowed vinegar. Claire cried harder, begging me to tell the detective it was an accident, and I just sat there on the hospital bed, holding the cedar key in my fist, realizing for the first time in my life they were scared, not of my injuries, of being caught. The car ride home was quiet, except for the sound of tires on wet pavement, and Ruth's occasional glance at me like she was making sure I was still breathing. It was January 1st. A grey, cold New Year's Day. People on the street were dragging trash bags full of party debris to the curb, still wearing glitter on their cheeks, still half laughing about the night before. And I was heading home to open a box I'd been afraid to open for 4 years. My condo building's lobby smelled like pine from leftover holiday decorations. The manager had already taken down the New Year's banner, but a stray gold 2 from 2026 was still taped crookedly near the elevator. Ruth stayed close behind me as I unlocked my door. The second we stepped inside, my skin prickled, not because anything was visibly wrong, because the air felt disturbed. My living room was neat, like always, couch pillows arranged, throw blanket folded, but my hallway closet door was slightly ajar. I stared at it. "I always close that," I whispered. Ruth's face went pale. "Don't," she said softly. "Don't touch anything yet." My heart hammered. I stepped forward anyway, slow and careful, and pulled the closet door fully open. My breath caught. The shelf where the cedar box sat was empty. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like falling. "No," I whispered. No, no, no. Ruth pushed past me, scanning the closet like she could will the box back into existence. Where do you keep it? She demanded. Top shelf, I said, voice shaking. Right there, always right there. Ruth turned to me, horror in her eyes. They've been here, she whispered. My hands started to tremble so badly I could barely hold my phone. I stared at the empty shelf, my brain flipping through possibilities like a desperate roulette wheel. Maybe I moved it. Maybe I put it somewhere else. Maybe I'm concussed and forgetting. But deep down, I knew exactly what this was. Claire had been smiling over me on the floor because she thought she'd already won. And now, she was making sure I couldn't prove anything. Ruth grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. Listen to me, she said sharply. Don't panic. This is exactly why Evelyn gave me that key. She didn't leave just one copy of the truth, Megan. My throat tightened. What do you mean? Ruth swallowed. Your grandma wasn't naive. She knew they might try to take it. So she made backups. Backups where? I demanded. Ruth pulled the ribboned key from her pocket and held it up. In my house, she said. In a safe deposit box. She opened under my name and yours. She told me if anything ever happened to you, if you got hurt again, we go there first. My knees nearly buckled with relief and rage colliding in my chest. They stole from my home, I whispered. On New Year's Day. Ruth's mouth pressed into a line. And that tells you something. I nodded slowly. They knew it existed. Ruth's eyes hardened. Yes, and that means they've been afraid of it the whole time. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text. From Claire. Happy New Year. Hope you're feeling better. Mum's worried sick. Please don't let a stupid accident destroy the family. Come over tonight. We should talk like sisters. My vision blurred, not from tears, from rage. She was texting me like she hadn't shattered a bottle across my face 12 hours earlier. Like she hadn't stolen something from my closet. Like the word sister was a leash. Ruth read the message over my shoulder and let out a small, bitter laugh. She always does that, Ruth murmured. She hurts you, then dares you to call it what it is. I stared at the screen until my hand stopped shaking. Then I typed one sentence back. No emojis, no softness. Don't contact me again. Detective Brooks has my statement. 3 dots appeared immediately. Claire typing, then stopped. Then nothing. Ruth looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. That was good, she said quietly. I swallowed. It didn't feel good. It will, she replied. Later, when you're safe. We didn't stay in my condo. Ruth insisted we leave before my family tried something else. We drove straight to Lakewood, to her little blue house. It looked like every modest American home built in the 60 seconds white trim, tiny porch, wreath still hanging even though the holidays were supposed to be over. Ruth unlocked the door and flicked on the lights. Kitchen, she said. Sit. I sat. She moved with purpose. Not the timid aunt I'd known at gatherings, but a woman with a mission. She went to a cabinet above her fridge, reached behind a row of old recipe books, and pulled out a manila envelope thick enough to bend. She brought it to the table and slid it toward me. On the front, written in Grandma Evelyn's neat cursive, for Megan open, when you're ready to stop apologizing for bleeding. My hands hovered over it, trembling. Ruth sat across from me, eyes wet but steady. This, she whispered, is why they've been trying to break you. Because if you ever realized your worth, you'd stop being controllable. My throat tightened. What's inside? Ruth's voice went low. Everything, she said. And Megan, when you read it, your whole life is going to reassemble itself, like it finally makes sense. I took a breath that tasted like fear. Then I opened the envelope. The first thing I saw was a legal document with a gold seal and a signature line I recognized immediately. Not mine, my grandmother's, and my name printed in bold beneath it. I blinked hard, rereading until the words stopped swimming. Transfer on death deed, effective upon death. 8,176. Marigold Ave, Lakewood, Colorado. Beneficiary, Megan Calloway. My heart stuttered. Marigold Avenue, Grandma Evelyn's house. The Victorian with the wraparound porch. The one with the stained glass window that made rainbows on the hallway wall. The house I loved more than any place on earth. You're telling me... My voice cracked. It's mine. Ruth nodded. tears spilling. It's been yours since she died. I couldn't breathe, because the last 4 years had been filled with my mother, and Claire insisting the house was tied up, that probate was complicated, that it was best if Claire handled it. They'd told me I didn't need to worry about it. They'd told me Grandma didn't leave much. They'd lied, and in that moment, I understood why Claire had smiled over my bleeding body. She wasn't just trying to hurt me. She was trying to remove the obstacle between her and what she believed she deserved. I flipped through the documents with shaking hands. Receipts, dates, copies of emails, then a photo fell out old, slightly faded, but sharp enough to make my stomach drop. It was a picture of Grandma Evelyn, holding me when I was about 2 years old. Her arms wrapped around me protectively, her face serious. And behind her, at the edge of the frame, Claire, a toddler, staring at me, not with curiosity, not with confusion, with something that looked like pure, concentrated hatred. My mouth went dry. "That can't be real," I whispered. Ruth's voice was hollow. "It is." I swallowed hard and reached for the final piece in the envelope. A letter, Grandma Evelyn's handwriting. My hands shook so badly the paper rustled like wind. I unfolded it, and the first line punched straight through my denial. "My sweet Megan, if you're reading this, then they finally hurt you badly enough that you can't pretend anymore." I covered my mouth. Ruth squeezed my hand across the table, and I began to read. "My sweet Megan, if you're reading this, then they finally hurt you badly enough that you can't pretend anymore." I stared at Grandma Evelyn's words until my eyes burned. It wasn't the letter itself that made me shake. It was the fact that she'd written it like a woman leaving a flashlight on for someone she knew would someday be trapped in the dark. I kept reading. "I have watched your mother excuse cruelty for most of your life. I have watched your sister practice it. I have tried to speak, and your mother has punished me for it. She called me divisive. She called me dramatic. She told relatives I was confused. So I stopped trying to convince people who wanted to stay blind. Instead, I gathered proof." My throat tightened so hard I could barely swallow. Ruth's eyes stayed on me like she was bracing for impact. I lowered my gaze to the next paragraph. "Megan, you were never clumsy. You were never too sensitive. You were targeted. And the people who should have protected you chose comfort instead." My vision blurred. A hot tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. I hated that reflex, how my body still tried to make my emotions quiet, still tried to keep the peace, even when the peace had been built on my silence. The letter continued. "The house on Marigold Avenue is yours. I arranged a transfer on death deed years ago because I knew your mother and Claire would fight to take it. They will tell you paperwork is missing. They will tell you it is complicated. They will tell you you should let Claire handle it. Do not." I inhaled sharply through my nose. Ruth whispered. "She wrote that before she got sick. Before hospice. She was preparing." I nodded without looking up, afraid if I spoke I'd crumble. Then I read the line that made my hands go ice cold. "Claire knows about this deed. She found it when I was dying. Her reaction frightened me. Please, Megan, watch your back." My stomach rolled. Ruth's voice shook. "That's when it started getting worse. After your grandma's funeral. After Claire realized what she wasn't getting." I didn't answer, because my brain was already rewinding. The fall by the pool at Claire's engagement party. The mystery shove in the parking garage at my company holiday party. The time I tripped on my own steps and smashed my chin on the railing, and Claire laughed too loudly while everyone else cringed. All those moments that felt random, all those injuries, I dismissed. A pattern, a campaign, and I'd been the perfect victim because I'd been trained to doubt my own reality. I finished the letter with trembling fingers. "I always saw you. I always loved you. And the day you stop apologizing for needing safety is the day you finally begin to live. Grandma Evelyn." When I lowered the paper, Ruth was crying quietly, wiping her cheeks with the back of her hand, like she was embarrassed by her own tears. "I didn't deserve her," she whispered. "You did," I said before I could stop myself. My voice surprised me firm, protective. Ruth looked up, startled. I swallowed, throat raw. "You were the only adult in that family who is sitting here with me right now." Her mouth trembled. "I should have done more." A silence settled between us, heavy, but honest. Then Ruth took a breath and said, "There's more. Not in the letter. In what I heard." I set the letter down slowly. "Tell me." Ruth's hands twisted together. "When your grandma was on hospice," she began, Claire volunteered to help organize paperwork. She played the devoted granddaughter, brought soup, held hands, put on a show. I could practically see it, Claire, in her soft voice, eyelashes fluttering, making everyone feel like she was the angel in the room. Ruth continued, voice barely above a whisper. I was in the hallway one night. I heard raised voices coming from your grandma's room. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but your grandma was sharp that night. Clear. And Claire was furious. Ruth swallowed hard. Claire said, You're giving it to her? After everything? She doesn't even love you the way I do. My skin prickled. Ruth's eyes filled again. And your grandma, God. She was brave, she said. Love isn't what you call taking. Love is what you do when you don't get your way. I closed my eyes. I could hear Grandma's voice in my head. Steady, quiet, unmovable. Ruth went on. Claire demanded she change the deed. She said she'd contest it. She'd claim your grandma wasn't competent. She'd drag it through court. My mouth went dry. And Grandma? Ruth's jaw tightened. She told her no, and then she said something that made Claire go silent for a second. Ruth leaned closer. Your grandma said, I have watched you hurt Megan since you were a child. I have watched your mother excuse it. Not this time. I opened my eyes slowly. Claire didn't cry, Ruth said. She didn't plead. She didn't apologize. She leaned in and said, Accidents happen, Grandma. Old people fall. Young people fall too. My stomach turned violently. Ruth's voice cracked. Then she noticed me in the hallway, and she smiled at me like she'd already decided what to do with me if I ever spoke. Ruth wiped her face, shaking. I kept quiet, she whispered, because your mother has controlled me our whole lives. She trained me to disappear so she could be the loud one, and I let her. I'm ashamed. My hands clenched on the table. A cold clarity filled my chest. This wasn't sibling rivalry, I said, my voice low. This was predatory. Ruth nodded, eyes hollow. Yes. I stared down at the deed again. My name, my grandmother's protection, and suddenly, a sick thought surfaced. Ruth, I whispered. If Claire stole the cedar box from my condo, she was looking for these exact papers. Yes, Ruth said. And if she didn't find them, my voice shook, then she'll come harder. Ruth's expression changed fear and urgency. Which is why we do not wait, she said. I nodded, heart pounding. I reached for my phone and dialed Detective Brooks before I could second-guess myself. She answered on the second ring. Brooks, it's Megan Calloway, I said, voice tight. My condo was broken into. They took a box my grandmother left me, and I have documentation, evidence, legal papers. A pause. Then Brooks's voice sharpened into pure focus. Where are you right now? At my aunt's house, I said. Lakewood. Do not return to your condo tonight, she said immediately. I'm sending an officer to take a report on the break-in, and I want photos of everything you have right now. I can do that, I said, swallowing hard. And Megan, she added, tone gentler for half a second. You did the right thing calling. I didn't feel like I'd done the right thing. I felt like I'd waited 37 years too long. But I said, okay. We spent the next hour photographing documents. Close-ups of seals, dates, signatures, the address on Marigold Avenue. Then Ruth pulled out something else, another folder, tucked into the same cabinet. This is the part Evelyn didn't want in the same envelope, she said quietly, in case it got stolen. My stomach tightened. What is it? Ruth opened it and slid the contents onto the table like she was laying down cards in a game that could kill you. Printed emails, screenshots, a notarized statement, and a small spiral notebook, labeled in my grandmother's handwriting. Claire Incident. Log. My throat went tight. Ruth flipped it open. The first entry was dated 29 years ago. Thanksgiving. Megan, age 8. Claire, age 7. Observed Claire push Megan near basement stairs. Megan fell. Broken arm. Mother, insisted Megan, tripped. Threatened Ruth to remain silent. My chest stopped. I stared at that line until my vision tunneled. Thanksgiving. I remembered the cast, the itching, the weeks of writing left-handed. I remembered my mother telling everyone, Megan is such a klutz. I remembered Claire crying dramatically, saying she'd tried to catch me, and I remembered believing it, because I didn't have a choice. Ruth's voice shook. I didn't know she'd written it down back then. I couldn't speak. My throat felt like it was closing. Ruth turned the page. Christmas. Megan, age 12. Claire poured soda on Megan's homework, then blamed Megan for baiting her. Mother punished Megan for being provoking. Summer. Megan, age 16. Claire loosened bicycle brake. Megan crashed. Mother insisted Megan must have adjusted it wrong. My hands started to tremble uncontrollably. I pressed my palms flat on the table like I could pin myself down. Ruth looked at me with tears spilling again. She knew. She knew for years. Grandma knew, I whispered. Ruth nodded. And she tried to get your mum to see it. I swallowed hard, barely breathing. And my mum? I forced out. Ruth's face tightened. She saw it, Ruth said quietly. She just chose Claire anyway. The sentence hit like a car crash. I leaned back in my chair, dizzy with nausea and grief, and laughed once sharp and broken. All these years, I whispered. All these years, I thought I was just too much, too sensitive, too dramatic. Ruth reached for my hand. You were surviving, she said. I stared at the notebook, at the entries, at the proof, and a new emotion rose inside me, hotter than fear. Rage. Not the loud kind, the clean kind. The kind that makes you stop negotiating with people who only understand consequences. Detective Brooks called back an hour later. We pulled the security feed request from the hospital, she said. And we're also getting the neighborhood camera footage from your condo building. My heart hammered. Brooks, I said, I need to tell you something else. Claire didn't just hurt me last night. She stole evidence from my condo today. That means she knows there's an investigation. A beat of silence. Then Brooks said, I agree. And, I added, voice steady now, I think she had a plan for what happened to me last night. I think she wanted me incapacitated. Another pause. Megan, Brooks said slowly, we got a preliminary toxicology screen. My blood turned cold. What? I whispered. There was a sedative in your system, she said. A prescription strength one. Not consistent with anything you were given at the hospital. It was in your blood when you arrived. I felt my stomach drop through the floor. Claire didn't just swing a bottle. She drugged me first. I swallowed hard. So, she planned it. Yes, Brooke said, voice firm. And Megan, that changes everything. My hands went numb around my phone. Brooks continued. We're elevating the charges. Assault with premeditation, tampering with evidence for the theft, and depending on what we uncover, possibly attempted incapacitation. Incapacitation, I repeated faintly, like the word belonged in someone else's life. Brooks's voice softened slightly. Megan, I need you to stay where you are tonight. Officers are going to swing by Ruth's to take copies of those documents and log them into evidence. Okay, I said. And we're going to need a controlled environment to confront her, Brooks added. Somewhere with witnesses. Somewhere she can't intimidate you into silence. I stared at the table. The incident log. The deed. Brooks, I said quietly. There's a family New Year's Day brunch tomorrow. Ruth's head snapped up. I kept going, my voice getting steadier with every word. My mother hosts it every year. Fresh start. Everyone comes. Aunts, uncles, cousins. It's the first time we're all together after New Year's Eve. Brooks was silent for a moment. Then she said, Are you suggesting we use that? Yes, I said, heart pounding. Because if Claire thinks she can rewrite what happened, she'll do it there. She'll perform in front of everyone. She'll try to control the narrative. Ruth shook her head slightly, fear in her eyes. But I was past fear now. I was tired of my family using crowds as camouflage. Brooks's voice turned businesslike. If you're willing, we can coordinate an arrest at that event, she said. But it needs to be done carefully. I swallowed. I'm willing. Ruth grabbed my hand hard. Megan, she whispered. Are you sure? I looked at her, and then, in my mind, I saw Claire's smile over my bleeding face. I saw my mother saying, Stop being dramatic. I saw the empty shelf in my closet. I saw Grandma's notebook, entry after entry, proving I'd been targeted since childhood. And I realized something that made me calm. They'd had decades to choose me. They never did. So now I got to choose myself. Yes, I said firmly. I'm sure. Brooks exhaled. Okay, then here's what we do. She outlined it in clear steps. I would show up to the brunch with Ruth. I would not confront anyone privately. I would let Claire talk, let her reveal herself. Officers would arrive mid-event with an arrest warrant, timed for maximum witnesses. Your job, Brooke said, is to stay calm and let evidence do the talking. I almost laughed, because for once, calm wasn't something I had to force. Calm was what happened when you finally stopped hoping for love from people who only offered control. After the call, Ruth and I sat in silence for a long time. Outside her kitchen window, the sky was turning dark. The holiday lights on her neighbor's roof blinked in lazy patterns, like the world still believed in happy endings. Ruth finally spoke. You know what your mother is going to do, she said quietly. I nodded. She'll call you ungrateful, dramatic. She'll say you're tearing the family apart. I swallowed. I know. Ruth's eyes were tired. And Claire will cry, I said flatly. Until crying doesn't work. Ruth nodded. Then she reached across the table and slid me the deed again, tapping my name with one finger. But this time, she whispered, you have something neither of them can twist. What? I asked, though I already felt it. Ruth's mouth trembled into the smallest, bravest smile. Proof, she said. I looked down at the ink of my name, and for the first time in my life, I felt something I'd never been allowed to feel in my family. Power. My mother's house smelled like citrus cleaner and burnt bacon when we walked in. New Year's Day brunch was already in full swing. The table was crowded with casseroles, champagne flutes refilled with orange juice, and plates stacked like no one planned to stop eating or pretending anytime soon. Laughter bounced off the walls. Someone had turned on soft jazz like it was a reset button for the year. Fresh start, my mother always said about this brunch. Fresh lies. More like, the moment we stepped inside, the room shifted. Not dramatically, not all at once. Just enough for me to feel every eye track me. My aunt paused mid-sentence. A cousin's fork froze halfway to her mouth. My stepfather's smile faltered for half a second, before snapping back into place. And Claire rushed toward me, like nothing had happened. Oh my God, Megan, she cried, arms outstretched. I've been sick with worry. I didn't move. Her arms hovered awkwardly in the air before she dropped them and laughed, a little too loudly. Careful, she joked to the room. Guess I'm dangerous now. A ripple of uncomfortable laughter followed. My mother appeared instantly at her side, hand landing on Claire's back like a stamp of ownership. There she is, Mum said brightly. The drama queen herself. She turned to the room. Everyone. Megan had a little accident on New Year's Eve. You know how she gets. My jaw tightened. Here it was, the narrative. Already written, already rehearsed. Mum looked at me pointedly. Sweetheart, why don't you tell everyone you're okay so we can move on? Move on. Like the blood on my hairline was just spilled juice. I opened my mouth, and Ruth spoke first. She's not okay, Ruth said clearly, and she won't be pretending anymore. Silence slammed into the room. My mother stared at her like she'd slapped her. Ruth, Mum warned, her voice sharp. This isn't the time. Ruth straightened, shoulders back. It's exactly the time. Claire's face shifted just a flicker, but I saw it. Calculation. She laughed lightly. Aunt Ruth, please. Megan tripped. We were all there. I finally spoke. No, I said calmly. We weren't. The room went still. My mother turned to me, eyes flashing. Megan, don't do this. Not today. Not ever, I replied. Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. Claire stepped forward, voice trembling perfectly. I said I was sorry. What more do you want from me? I met her eyes. The truth, I said. A murmur rippled through the room. Claire scoffed. Truth? You've always loved playing the victim. And then right on cue, my mother turned the room against me. She's been jealous of her sister since they were kids, Mum announced. Claire has always had a big heart. Megan just resents it. I felt something strange settle inside me. Not anger. Certainty. You want the truth? I said, voice steady. Okay. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. The incident log. I slid it onto the table. Grandma kept records, I said, because she knew no one would believe her. My mother's face drained of colour. Ruth stepped forward and opened the folder, reading aloud. Thanksgiving. Megan, age 8. Claire pushed her down basement stairs. Broken arm. A gasp. Claire laughed sharply. That's insane. Ruth turned the page. Summer. Bicycle brake loosened. Megan injured. Another murmur. My mother's hands began to shake. This is fabricated, she snapped. My mother was confused at the end. She wasn't, I said quietly. She was afraid. Claire's smile finally cracked. You don't know what you're talking about, she hissed. Oh, I do, I replied. Because she also left this. I pulled out the deed. Silence. The house on Marigold Avenue, I said. It's mine. Has been for 4 years. Claire lunged forward. That's a lie. My mother spun on her. Claire? Claire froze. And in that moment, she realized. She'd said too much. I continued, calm as ice. She tried to contest it. She drugged me on New Year's Eve. She broke into my condo yesterday to steal evidence. The room exploded. That's enough, my mother screamed. You're sick. Right then, the doorbell rang. Once. Firm. The sound cut through the chaos like a blade. Detective Brooks stepped inside with 2 uniformed officers. The room went dead silent. Megan Calloway? Brooks asked calmly. That's me. She turned to Claire. Claire Calloway. You're under arrest for felony assault, poisoning, and tampering with evidence. Claire laughed. Actually laughed. This is ridiculous, she said. You're all falling for her performance. Brooks didn't flinch. We have video footage of you slipping a sedative into Megan's drink, she said. We recovered deleted notes from your phone outlining staged accidents, including future ones. Claire's face went white. My mother screamed. No! As the cuff snapped closed around Claire's wrists. She finally dropped the act. This is your fault, she shrieked at me. You were never supposed to get anything. Dad left because of you. The room froze. Brooks looked up sharply. What did you just say? I felt the floor tilt. Ruth inhaled sharply. Oh God. Brooks turned to me. Megan, your grandmother's records mentioned something about your father. I swallowed hard. I don't know anything. He left when I was 5. Ruth stepped forward, voice shaking. He didn't leave her, she said. He ran from Claire. The room went silent again. Ruth looked at my mother. Tell her, she said. My mother collapsed into a chair. 30 years of lies crumbled in seconds. He caught Claire when Megan was a baby, she whispered, with a pillow over her face. He begged me to get help. My breath left my body, and I didn't, she continued hollowly. I chose to protect Claire, and I punished Megan for reminding me. Claire screamed as officers led her away. You ruined everything. No, I said softly. You never owned it. After the door closed, no one spoke. There was nothing left to say. 2 months later, Claire was sentenced. Home confinement, mandatory psychiatric treatment, a 10-year restraining order. The judge's words were simple. This was not sibling conflict. This was predatory behavior. My mother entered therapy, alone, without promises. I moved into Grandma's house, renovated it, opened the doors to women who'd been told to stay quiet. We called it Evelyn's Place, a space for truth, a space for safety, a space where no one is asked to apologize for bleeding. For 37 years, I thought survival meant staying small. I was wrong. Survival is choosing yourself loudly when silence almost killed you. And that's how my new year began.